Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this great tasting. This is my colleague Sarah Mückler. My name is Carlo Vismo. We're happy to be here tonight. Welcome Gonzalo Iturriaga. He's the winemaker of Vega Sicilia, Alión, Macán, Oremus, out of Hungary. Tempos Vega Sicilia is a name that basically encompasses all the bodegas, etc. We've been partners for many years, more than 20 years. We're very honored to represent them here in Switzerland, in Germany, exclusively in Switzerland as well. And our collaboration has been great, has grown ever since. And you will find all these great wines in our retail stores in Germany, Switzerland, 37 locations in total. So, well, what we are happy to say is that Spain is a wonderful country for our wines. We love to present you with the heavy wines that are big, but also more subtle wines that we will probably taste tonight. Autochthonous or native grape varietals that are becoming increasingly popular, such as Garnacha, Tempranillo, things like that. We also enjoy international grape varietals that are still used very much in Spain, and I think we will have Gonzalo tell us a little bit more about that. So, Gonzalo.
Yes.
My first question is, what is Vega Sicilia, and how did the name come about? I think that would be very interesting to know.
Well, Vega Sicilia, it was founded in 1868, in 1864, sorry, and I think the myth has been created during all these years. I think a big myth have to be made with time, and also with great people who are able to make this happen. I think great wines are those wines who have the big capacity of aging year after year. And in our case, I think we are one of these cases when you drink wines of Vega Sicilia from the 50s, 60s, 70s, and they still gorgeous. Is thanks to the terroir we have. And I think in this history there has been many important people. The first one was Eloy Lecanda. He was the founder. For me, he was a really visionary guy. He had the intuition to plant in the right place, and he had he had a great idea to plant not only Tempranillo but also other varieties like Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot that we still working with them. After Eloy Lecanda, I think one important person was Chomin. Chomin, he was the first winemaker. He started working for Vega Sicilia at the beginning of 20th century, and he was the first winemaker who started doing this long aging process that we do in Vega Sicilia. That takes us around 5-6 years in between barrels and big vats. So he was the first who put the style. After him, we keep the essence of this type of aging, but of course with an evolution. And then I think there have been many owners, but when Pablo Alvarez and the family arrived in 1982, I think it's an important moment. Pablo, for me, is like it was Eloy Lecanda. He's also a really visionary guy. And the first decision he took in 1983 was to stop using herbicides and to stop using chemicals and to be more organic. At that moment, people thought that he was crazy, but for me, he's a guy who is always thinking in long term. And one thing that he had in his mind was that he has to show since the beginning. He started to travel to show our wines to all the world, because at that moment we were quite known here in Spain, but maybe not that known outside of Spain. So He's been our best ambassador, worked or traveling all around the world. So this is a little bit about the history. And he's also been quite smart because he's been investing in several projects in Pintia that we are going to talk about after, in Alión, in Oremus, that is a wonderful place where we produce, I love the wines from Oremus. I'm going next week there, and also in Macán. So, but after we will have the time to explain the history of each of the wineries. The name came from the in our state there is a tiny church with an image of Santa Cecilia. And the name came because it was the Vega, the land nearby the river of Santa Cecilia. In old Spanish, Cecilia was written like an S, so that's why they call Vega Sicilia. I don't know if I answered your question more or less.
Oh, definitely more than less.
Maybe too much. Sorry.
Well, definitely that one. I also wanted to ask what sets your wines apart from other wines from the region, be it Douro, Ribera del Duero, or even Hungary. What makes those wines different? And I think you pretty much already answered that question. If you want to add something to that question, then please be welcome. But other than that, I think this was very comprehensive, and we can pretty much move on to the main event here.
Okay, perfect.
And maybe start tasting some wines.
Perfect. I'm thirsty, so.
Well, good. We are too. Is everyone ready? I hope so. I hope you all have your wines, opened. If you have decanted them or not, it doesn't matter. The wines are super approachable. They're really, they are very accessible. And I think we just go ahead right now. If you do have any questions about the wines or anything else, please feel free to use the chat function. And Sarah will be, posing the question to Gonzalo, and hopefully we can answer it. So let's do that. Well, let's start with wine number one. This is Macán 2015.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% Tempranillo. It's the newest estate, if I may say so, from Vega Sicilia. San Vicente de Soncia in the very western part, most prestigious part with the highest elevation. But I don't want to tell too much about it because we have Gonzalo here, and please go ahead.
Well, a little bit about the history. I think Pablo, he was thinking about investing in Rioja in the 95, 96, but it was until 2003 when he really decided to invest there. And it was in a meal, in a lunch with Baron de Rothschild, when Baron de Rothschild asked Pablo he was trying to invest in somewhere, and Pablo told him, yes, I'm thinking in Rioja. Why in Rioja? Because I believe that we can make great wines in Rioja. And he asked to Pablo, why don't we do this together? And Pablo, he's someone that he like I said before, he always thinking long term. And he said, I don't like to have partners, because I think that when you start creating a wine, you need time until you achieve your style. And Mr. Benjamin de Rothschild asked him, how much time? And he said, 15 years. So go ahead, and they start working together. From 2004 until 2009, we start buying vines secretly, so people didn't know that Vega Sicilia and Rothschild were buying vines. And in 2009, we rent a winery where we start producing our wines. As I said before, since the beginning to nowadays, the things has been changing, because when you arrive to a place, you have to know how the vines work, how you have to manage the vine, how you have to manage the fermentation, extraction, and how you have to manage the aging. The first wine we produced in 2009, even Mr. Parker said that it was a little bit woody. So it has been well, it's still a way where we are learning and we're improving, and we are more and more approaching to the style that we want to produce in this region. We are in San Vicente de Roson Sierra. It's an Atlantic climate, quite complicated because every year something happens. The frost, a lot of mildew, botrytis, so it's hard and tough to work, but you can produce great wines. 2015 was naturally a rich and warm vintage. It was my first vintage. I arrived in 2015, so I learned quite a lot from this vintage, and for me it's an expression with full body, with big shoulders. And it was the first vintage where we start the last part of the aging. After 12 months of aging in barrel, we start working with big fooders to find the wines, to give more finesse and to give more length to the wines.
That's wonderful.
I think I like it very much, but like I know what is in the winery. I think we are improving the quality year after year. I think people who know us since the beginning, they have seen that I think we are going in the correct way. I think we produce here two wines, Macán Clásico and Macán. In Macán Clásico, we want to produce a more approachable wine, more food forward, more friendly, more easy drinking. And in Macán, we want to produce something more serious, with more density, with more length, and with more texture and capacity of aging, of course.
That's great. Well, Gonzalo, can you just tell me real quick about the Cantabria Mountains that are, looming over basically, the growing region? What does it do? Is there anything interesting that you can tell me about how it affects basically the wine growing, and how it affects a vintage such as 2015, or how it does not affect the vintage?
Okay, I think here the vintages are quite different one from another. I think the climate in this part of the San Vicente de Sierra makes that every year you have to adapt yourself completely different, because you can have a 2013 really rainy and with less density, maybe like 2018, or you can have a 15 that is huge. So depending how is the vintage, our work, the work of the winemaker, is to adapt ourselves to the work, to these changes. So for us, it's a great job, because every single vintage you have to figure out what do you have to do with the wines. This type of vintage, what you normally do is to reduce the new oak, to give more percentage to the big fooders, and to give more finesse. But if you are working in a 2013, you give more oak to give more roundness. So for me, it's a place where every year is a challenge, but you can produce a fantastic wines. I think the soils, you have plenty of different places, parajes, that you have like Bardallo, like Bombón, like Cayucanda, where you can have huge concentration, but at the same time, great finesse. It's a beautiful place, but still we are quite new in the region, and we have to keep learn in the place, because we only been working there for 11 years, so right. There's still work to be done.
You've done a great job, so congrats on this so far, and I'm sure this is success story is going to continue. Well, let's.
What do you think about the wine, Carlo?
Well, I love it. I love it. Obviously, I tasted it before. It's a really ripe, nice, warm vintage. Super smooth though. It's got all the ingredients. It's a nice bitterness, nice acidity, nice sweetness. I think the barrel is quite, balanced too in that sense. So it's definitely not overdone at all. But we are also looking forward to, what you're doing to the wines in the future for sure. Yeah, very curious about it.
Let's see if we go in the right way or not.
I think most definitely you are. Can we? So, well, what do you think of the wine, Gonzalo?
Well, I think for me, I feel quite proud because it was my first vintage, and I learned quite a lot in this vintage because I learned that here the extraction you have to be very smoothly and you have to be very careful managing the wood. So like it was my first experience. I feel very proud, but it is not a bad result for my first vintage in Rioja. So I think you can feel the power of the vintage, but you say with a nice tannicity that it's tight, but at the same time it's fine. And you can feel how was the vintage, but with no too much wood. So the wood is quite a balance. So for me, and I feel quite happy with the result of the wine.
No, I think you're a little bit too humble here, Gonzalo, about this wine.
What winemakers we are always looking for how can we make things better and better and better. We're not never happy with the result. No, but I think we have a huge terroir.
No, it's good. I mean, going like this. Well, I think you can all be happy with this wine. Well, we always want to make a better wine. As you say, vintage 2015 was pretty warm, was challenging. Some things have been done in the vineyards as well as in the cellar. I'm very happy with the result, so I think we can
I think
be happy about it.
In 16, the best thing in 16 is that we already finished our winery, and in our winery we have. I always say that I'm the spoiled winemaker in Spain, maybe in the world, because I have everything that I need, and it's true that in a new facilities for me it's much easier to do a more precise work. Be more precise during the extraction and do plot by plot, and in the Rent winery we were not able because we didn't have a space. So in 16 I was like you could do the better work because you have better facilities, but I think 15. Well, I like it very much because even though it was a warm vintage, I think we adapt ourselves quite well. I think we reduce the wood with less impact, and we reduce the percentage of malolactic in barrel. So the fresh we kept the freshness even though it was a warm vintage.
I could not agree more. So hey, how about we move on to the next wine? Because well, first of all, we have another vintage 2015 here. That's Pintia 2015. So we know a little bit about the vintage now. Obviously, Rioja is not fully comparable with Toro, but nevertheless, what we have here is another vintage 2015. We have also 100% Tempranillo, which is called Tinta de Toro. In this region, definitely a different clone, which Gonzalo will tell you more about it. clone, as in a different version of the Tempranillo, and certainly Pintia has been one of the leaders, if not the leader, in terms of quality since its first vintage, I would like to say. So Gonzalo, well, when was it founded? What does it do?
Well,
have wines changed? Well, tell me.
Well, a little bit about the history. We start looking forward and we start buying wines in 98, 99, 2000, where we also did some trials in a winery where we tried to vinify to see what was going on in Toro. And first commercialized vintage was in 2001. Pintia, the name came because nearby Alión, we have a Roman ruins called Pintia, and every year we gave money for this, and the names came from there. And for me, Toro is a region. I love Toro because you can have great character in the wines. It's a region with a continental Mediterranean climate, really warm and dry. The cycle of the vines is quite short because the budding takes place in April, but the harvest it's in September, beginning of September, mid-September, and it's very important in this place because of the density of plantation. We have only 1,000 vines per hectare because it's quite dry, and there is no irrigation. We all do dry farming. We don't do any irrigation. So it's very important how you manage the vines, because you have to saldo the bunches, but because the sun can burn the fruit, but you cannot leave too much production or too little production because you can overripe. And for me, it's crucial when you pick, when you harvest. It's for me, it's the place where the window is more close. Like in 3 days, you can lose all your acidity. So you have to be very, very precise when to pick. For me, it's the most difficult to pick in the right time. If I compare to Ribera del Duero or to Rioja, because for example, in 15 we start quite soon and we have to run because it was quite warm, and you have to pick in order to keep the freshness and in order not to be too ripe. So for me, this is one of the secrets: pick in the right time and have a good balance in the vines. Then in Pintia, we do cool maceration during 6-7 days in order to be more smoothie during the extraction, and during the aging, we do part of the wine malolactic in barrel, depending how is the vintage, and then we use quite a high percentage of American oak produced in our cooper. In the cooper we have in Vega Sicilia, around 20-25%, and the rest French oak. This American oak, for me, it's very nice with the tannicity that you have in Ribera, in Toro, that is a little bit more rough, more tight. But the American oak gives you more the velvety, the roundness, the silkiness, the harmony. So, well, 15, well, we are going to drink it.
Right. So making wine in Toro as well as in Ribera del Duero gives you a little bit of an advantage to see similar climates, similar soils at all.
No. Here in Toro, for me, the type of wood is different. Not the type. The type of toast is different. Normally, if in Ribera you can push more in the toast of the barrel. Here, normally the toast you use is less, and the type of grain is quite similar, but the type of toast can change. And the vintage 15, it was warm in both places, but sometimes they are completely different. For example, this year in 20, in Toro was quite warm, but in Ribera we have a huge rain in the middle of September that makes so the weather during the harvest can change completely. Normally in Toro we are more warm or more, and in Ribera we are more cool. So that's why the behavior of the Tempranillo in each place is a little bit different.
Right. Well, I like it. I can see what you say about the American oak. It definitely has some some toastiness, but well, as I see it, Toro can definitely take it. It's a little bit of a natural match in that sense. I think it's very balanced. Well, everything fits. And Toro, well, personally, I think Toro 15 is a fantastic vintage. It's not for this wine, and in general, it's not overdone. It's not too sweet, too much alcohol. It's actually super balanced, and it shows in this wine. So I assume you see it the same way as I do, right?
Completely. For me, like sometimes in the case of treating, I think we did a great job. Sometimes like 14, maybe you could feel more the wood. We didn't adapt ourselves as well as 15, but in 15, I think we did a great job with the wood. We did a great job when we pick. So even though it was a warm vintage, you can feel the freshness, the tannicity is quite smooth. You can feel a little bit the toasty, but not too much. And I think it's a style in Switzerland. I don't know what you do in Movenpick, but you are the best client of Pintia in all the world. So not half of the production, but 1/3 of the production goes directly to Switzerland. I don't know why, but you love the style of Pintia and you love Toro. But you are our best client.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I think this will definitely continue as it is. Well,
I do have one question.
Please.
You were talking about how the grapes, you need to pick them sometimes within 3 days. How do you know when the grapes are ready to be picked?
It's a great question. And it's, I would say 60% will be the tasting of the grapes, 40% will be the analysis. So during the harvest time, we taste and taste and taste and taste grapes, and we see how the vines, the behavior of the vines. When we normally when you start tasting the grapes and you start see that the grapes crunch. I don't know if you say crunch.
Oh yeah.
Yes. When you start thinking about it is from here to 3 days we have to harvest it, but you have to see everything. You have to see how is if the vines don't have any drought or they have well, everything. But for me, the tasting is 60% and 40% will be the analysis that help you to take decisions. In the case of 15, it was maybe 70% of a tasting and 30% of a analysis. But great question. During harvest time, maybe I can taste, I don't know, 100,000 berries per during the harvest. It's after that I don't take any more berries. I don't eat any more berries.
That's wonderful. Hey Gonzalo, just a quick question, maybe for a short answer, is why would people visit the Douro region instead of Ribera del Duero? Because everyone's going to Ribera del Duero.
It's a pity.
Well, at least people from Switzerland, and I don't know. No one's going to Toro. Why should they go to Toro if they should?
I think you should go to Toro because, of course, it's Pintia, but there are also great producers like Vitorino, Alabaster. I love their wine. You have Toro. That is a beautiful village where you have 4 or 5 really nice restaurants. Not very far away, you have one of the best restaurants if you like deer or cebrouille.
Right.
of food or mushrooms. So it's a place with a lot of charm that people are going to receive you much more warmer than in Ribera. In Ribera, we are maybe more cool people. No? In
Right.
Toro, they're more warm. So I think you should go definitely to Toro because people in Toro, they're more friendly. They don't receive so many people, so when they receive someone, they're more friendly.
I love that answer. Gonzalo.
Well, I don't know, but you should go. There are many.
No, but we're going to talk a little bit, little bit about the food more in the end. Not too much, but about what actually goes well with these wines. But how about we move on to the last wine?
Like you want, okay? Alión. Well,
right here we are.
Alión 16.
2016.
Okay, Alión. Pablo started thinking about Alión in 87, 88, because he wanted to produce a more modern style in Ribera and to keep the more traditional wines in Vega Sicilia. So he bought a winery, Bodegas Liceo, in 91, but the three first vintages of Alión were produced in Vega Sicilia. And when we reveal all the winery in Bodegas Liceo, we move and we start producing Alión there. Alión, the focus is to produce a different style, keep the more traditional long aging process, more traditional way of aging, and to make a more modern style in Alión.
Gonzalo,
¿sí?
Excuse me, sorry, because that's a question I wanted to ask. Like how some people say, hey, Alión is just the second wine to Vega Sicilia. Is it or is it not? And you just literally just gave the answer to that.
Well, we want to produce, and it's our objective, to make different styles. Alión to have his own style with this structure, titanicity, full body, and in Único this long aging process, and Balbuena with more length, finesse. So we want to produce different wines with different styles. In Alión, we use some of the berries or some of the grapes came from Vega Sicilia. Normally, when the vines are young, because we don't use the vines until they have 10 years old. So at the beginning, we start using them in Alión, and we see how is the behavior. When they get too good, we pass to Balbuena, and when they get too good, they go to Único. But in Alión, we also work with grapes from a lot of places in Ribera, from Pesquera, from Moradillo, from La Horra, from Gumiel, so from Pedrosa. So we have maybe we have not from all the village, but we have from many places. So for me, it's a more an expression of what you can have in Ribera, and in Balbuena or Único, it's more an expression of what we can have in our own states. It's different place. So here it's a blend of different places. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So Gonzalo, we're here with 2016, which is well, in my experience, quite different from 2015. Whether it's Douro or Ribera del Duero. But what's your take on 2016? Whether it is Ribera del Duero or Douro? What do you think about the vintage 16?
Well, the vintage 16 naturally was a little bit more productive, and naturally it was a little bit more cool than 15. 15 was quite short production and more concentrated and more warm, and 16 was a little bit more productive and cool during the vintage. and we didn't have any frost because the huge problem in the Ribera is the frost that you can have during the harvest time. So we finished the ripeness quite well. The berries, the skins of the berries, ripe very well, and all the cycle really happens very well, but with more balance. 15 was more full body, more powerful, maybe more tight. At the beginning was too close, and in 16 you have a more open. It is more open since the beginning, more floral, more with less density, but with more elegance. I don't know if you agree with me.
Oh, I couldn't more. Well, I think it's a marvelous vintage. I really love it. It's super balanced. It's very fresh. It's very clean. It's well, and the ageability of the vintage is no doubt surpasses pretty much any vintage. Well, so far from the 2010s, I would say. So I think everyone can look forward to, well, Macán 16, Pintia 16. We already have Alión 16 here. It's really marvelous, and for me, one of the best. So that's,
thank you. Thank you. Here is something we did. We start doing in 16. During the aging, we start introducing concrete during the aging. Instead of using only barrel, we use also concrete in order to keep more the freshness, the elegance, and the finesse. Around 10% of the wines doesn't go in barrel, but we work in concrete to work this. So thank you very much. I like it. What you say about the capacity of aging in the Ribera, for me, the capacity of aging depends quite a lot on how was the vintage. For example, 7 and 8, we have a huge frost in mid-September. So for me, they're wines to be drunk now. You don't need to, because they're not going to evolve more. 13, it was more rainy, complicated, but so you don't have to keep it too much time. For me, 16, 11, 10, I think they have more capacity of aging. When you finish the cycle and you have no frost during the harvest, I think the wines can age much longer in the case of Alión.
Okay, thank you for that. So, well, let me get back to the little food question here. Well, I know that lechon is something that is eaten quite a bit in Ribera. Is that something you would eat with these wines, or tell me what local people from, well, either Rioja, Ribera del Duero, Toro, well, everyday meals, what they would eat with the wines, or what they used to eat, what's historically been eaten with wines like that?
Well, I think lechazo, as you say, lechazo, like baby lamb, is something that match very well. But I think also with game, cebolla, I don't know how you say it, red deer or red deer, or even with well, I always say that if you like the food and you like the wine, normally everything pair very well. So you don't have to be very crazy about the pairing. But no, lechazo, red deer, meat in general, everything goes very well. I don't know. It's the typical answer. Maybe it's not a good answer.
No, it's good. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ribera del Duero is a very traditionally agricultural area.
It is.
With lots of fruit trees, anything that grows in the soil, basically. So it's a natural match. It's not like something that.
Yes.
It comes naturally in that sense.
Well, I once when I was in I don't know how you say beberat, I don't know, remolacha in Spanish. When I was in the United States once, they gave me a sort of beverage with a truffle with Pintia. And it's true that in Pintia we grow beverage. There is a sugar usine where we produce sugar, and it's pretty much you discover great matches with good cookers that show you things that they are beautiful. I not can repeat it in my house, but they're beautiful in
No, but we can agree that actually these wines are, well, I want to say they're very accessible. They're super complex. They're you know, all of these wines are very ageable. You can put them in your cellar for a long time, but they're super accessible upon release, and that makes them a good match for, well, pretty much anything. I mean, obviously they have some power. They're, you know, they're big wines, but they are very adaptable to hearty foods. Let's just say it that way.
It's very important what you said. It's very important, and it's something I learned from Monsieur Berrouet. He was the winemaker of Petrus, and he said when you release the wine, they have to be drinkable. You cannot release wines that they are really tough and you cannot drink them, because great wines, they have to be good when they are released. Of course, when they get older, they are going to be fantastic, but it is very important when you release the wines that the wines are really drinkable, even if they're more young, but that you don't have to wait 20 years until you drink them, that you can have a 16 Alión now, and it's easy peasy Japanese. No, so better.
That's wonderful. So, Gonzalo, well, do we have any more questions from
we have a few,
the audience?
Yeah. I'll just start at the beginning. Do you produce your wines biological or biodynamically?
Well, we produce them organic way, but we are not certified. We don't use herbicides, we don't use pesticides. We do a lot of handwork, but not biodynamic.
Okay. Then we have another question. What's the difference in winemaking between the three wines that we just tasted and Valbuena and Único?
Well, Único and Valbuena is, in winemaking, they are the easier ones, because you don't have to do anything. When wines are good, you don't have to do anything at all. So it's more easy. When in the case of Alión, the problem can be the frost, and sometimes the frost arrive during harvest, so the tannicity doesn't ripe enough. So you have to be very careful in order not to take this green tannicity. In the case of Pintia, the problem can be more that you can over-shrivel, you can over-ripe. So you have to be very careful in order not to over-ripe. So it's different approach. So normally in Pintia, you pick more al dente, not too ripe, not too early, but al dente. And in Macán, every single year is completely different. Every single year, it's a new challenge, and you have to think about what to do, because one year you have a lot of botrytis, another year you have a lot of worm, another year you have a heel. So every year you have to adapt yourself. It's maybe the place where you have to change the vinification and adapt the aging more than in the other places. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, I think that's good.
Yeah.
We have another question in regards to food. Would you pair all three wines with similar foods or difference? For the person who asked, Rioja was much more smoother and lighter in body.
This is a question of taste, and I'm not very good at the matchings, but I think no, I don't know. Carlo, I let you answer.
Come on. Do I need to? Okay.
What type
Well,
of?
I would. because well, they're very different wines from different regions, but I can tell they're made really well. They're made in well, just with care of the grapes, not too much intervention. Obviously big wines, but with each of their distinct characteristics for sure. I would say yes to that question. I would say yes, that all of these wines, I don't know, if you have a herb cross, a tenderloin, yes, you can drink all these wines. Well, if I'm incorrect, well, people, you have the 3 wines now, try it out. I don't know. But Gonzalo, I have one other question. It's a 2-part question basically. Are you planning on changing anything? Is there any change of style? Is there anything that we have to expect that will not be the same as we say go to 2030 and have 2019 Unico? Will there be anything different, or are you moving ahead with as it was? And the second part of the question is, what tell us about 2018, 19, 20, or just basically the last 3 years?
Great question, and I think there is a leitmotif in our house is evolution, not revolution. Like in the life of a wine, you have to be always very honest with the client and very honest with your style, but you have to keep thinking how you have to evolve the style, but with tiny changes. In all the wines we work in different things, in different subjects, but we're working in every winery with different things. In Rioja with Fudres, and also we are thinking about putting big wooden vats. In Alión with concrete. In Vega Sicilia, we are increasing the capacity in big, large vats. In all the wineries, we are working in different tiny things, but with the philosophy of keeping the style, but with working in a smooth evolution. I don't know if I answer you.
Absolutely, yes.
But we are working in plenty of things, in biotechnology, in wood, in concrete, in big recipes, in different places. I always say that I'm the spoiled winemaker because I don't have to do any bureaucracy. I only take care of wines, and I only have to think how we have to increase the quality, and it's the best part of the work to see. Well, we have to do something here. We have to, and you think in things that maybe you have to try 3 or 4 years to see if they work. And when you are sure that they are working, you start implanting the things. Maybe there are things that you can start implanting them more sooner, but you are always thinking in evolution. If not, I will be fired. No, I'm joking.
Well, let's not.
No, but
not go there.
we cannot be stopped. We cannot stop.
No, Gonzalo, but this was it was a little bit of a trick question because the style of all the wines has been very consistent. It's very defined in that sense. So I'm pretty sure there's not a change to anything. But as you say, there's always improvement. Is always possible in small ways, whether it's in the vineyard or in the winery itself. And so, well, we look forward to that.
But we have to every year to taste together to see if you like the evolution.
Someone's got to do the job.
Yeah, I have to come back to Switzerland. I love Switzerland.
Well,
one of my best nights in my life has been with you. We have a dinner in a train that it was incredible, beautiful.
That's wonderful. Well, we have to wait a little bit, I guess, but let's make it happen whenever it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions from the audience?
Yep, we have one more question, or two-part question about the grapes. How many grapes do you leave on one vine, and how many grapes per hectare do you have?
Depends on which region. For example, in Toro, we have less production, between 3.5, 4 tons per hectare, depending how is the vintage. Less than that, you over-shrivel, so it's not good for the quality. More, maybe you can have this rough tannicity. In Ribera, you can go a little bit higher. You can be more between 4.5, 5 tons per hectare, or 5.5, and in Rioja, depends how is the climate. No, it doesn't depend on us. It depends on the climate. So it depends. The balance is different from one place to another.
Great, thank you for that. You know, I have one last one basically, which is kind of obvious. 100% Tempranillo for all these wines. Just a quick one on how you see how they differ. How does the Tempranillo from Rioja Alavesa differ from Toro, from Ribera del Duero? Does it make a difference? Could I just take the grapes from Macán, take them to Ribera and make Alión out of it, or not?
Well, in all our places, we, for example, in Toro, we work with Pierre Franc in maybe 70% of our vines, and we have a clonal, our massal selection. In all the places, we have our own massal selection. We try to bring some massal selection from Toro to Rioja, but I think it works. It works. Definitely, it works. But I think you should keep your esencia. You should keep the essence of the region. If you have great massal selection from Toro, why you should bring it to another place? And for example, in Vega Sicilia, we have 88 different Tempranillos, and they are great. But they are from these places, and they are being adapted from these places. And in Rioja, we have around 40 different Tempranillos. So we want to keep this genetic in its place. We don't want to bring the Tempranillos from Rioja to. But for us, it's our part of our heritage, to keep them, to work with them. Every new plantation, we send these clones to a nursery in Burgundy, and they overgrave with a root stock, and they send us back. So to keep for me, what is important is to keep this heritage, and in each place, the clones that they have been there for a long time.
Right.
But other people think differently. Other people love to bring clones from Toro to Rioja, but in our case, we want to keep the clones we have, or the massal selection we have in each place, with our own heritage. I don't know if I answered you more or less, you know.
No, this is perfect. Well, I just want to add something real quick. Obviously, the physiology of each grape in Rioja, it's decidedly cooler, so you have a more plump grape, a little bit thinner skins, whereas in say in Pintia and Toro, you have a little bit more compact bunch, thicker skins that are more adapted to the climate, the heat.
Sorry, you were asking about that. Sorry. Sorry.
No, that's good. But just that the audience understands that while these are all Tempranillo, in terms of genetics, they all have adapted to their respective regions. One is a little cooler and a little bit more wet, whereas Toro is a little bit drier and hotter. So the grapes need to have a little bit more protection, even though the the genetics are basically the same. That's, you know, he has
your answer better than me the question. Sorry, my English is not very good.
It's wonderful. It's very good.
We have one last question I think we can answer. It might be a hard one, Gonzalo, but do you have a favorite Vega Sicilia wine?
Maybe the 1939. Maybe because it was when my father was born, and I tried this wine 3 times in my life. The 3 times, and the 3 times this wine was huge, was fantastic. Maybe 70 or 68 or 62, and they have more name, but for me 39, it's a wine with 82 years, 81 years, and it's still, and that's, I think, because like I think in my father, and every time I have this one, I have pleasure. Maybe 39 could be my best one, but there are many great vintages. So I don't know, 59, 60, 68, 70, 89.
Gonzalo, it's fine. Just send us a bunch of all these vintages, so we can supply our customers with it, and then it's all good.
I don't know. It would be great. I will go with them. So we'll be looking together.
So we have one more question, if you don't mind. Someone said for them, they're all still a bit young. When would you say is the perfect year that you would drink these wines?
I would say I'm a little bit agree with him. I will say with Pintia, I like, for example, now 2010 is gorgeous. Pintia with 8 years, I like it them very much. Macán, I think it needs 2 or 3 more years. I love them now, but with a little bit more of time, I love them more because it's a question of taste. It's a question of taste. But 10 Pintia now is showing very well. I had the other day a 2009 Macán that it was wonderful. Alión really aged very well. I had once a 95 that was brilliant. Good vintages of Alión can age very, 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 very well. And a 16, I think it's a good vintage. So if you have patience, I think I trust it.
We do.
I know I don't have many patience, but I put my cellar in the winery so I cannot see it. And maybe in 20 more years I go and I start drinking them. It's what I do. So my wife don't see the wines, and I cannot see them neither. So I don't drink them, right, because every bottle I see, every bottle I drink.
Exactly.
Well, Gonzalo, with the time the wines wins, I think.
No, but that's why we come back. It's about the release, you know, because a lot of other producers in those regions are at vintage 17, 18, maybe even 19. We try to release them. Well, Pintia we release 5 years after the vintage, so it's the 15 is the wine we are releasing. We try to keep them in the cellar as much as we can. But it's true that the market they push. We need more wine. So, but we try to release them when they are ready. Of course. Well, that was wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Gonzalo.
Thank you to you.
We have this. We tasted 3 wines. We had a lot of great information from you. It was really pleasant. I'm very happy to have had you here. I hope our audience as well. And thanks everyone for joining, for sure. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the wines and the great information that we got from Gonzalo. And I hope to see you soon, somewhere, maybe in a Olympic wine cellar or anywhere else. So, well, all the best. Gonzalo, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for Movenpick. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Un abrazo from Spain.
Un abrazo. Take care.
Take care.
Gracias.
Bye.
Ciao, bye.
Ciao.